I'm Juliana Pilon, the director of the Center for Culture and Security at the Institute of World Politics in Washington, D.C. And I'm delighted to have a friend and member of the advisory board of the center, Zainab Al-Suwaij. Did I pronounce that correctly? Al-Suwaij. And I'm not sure even that is quite right. It was right. Well, I'll do my best. And one of the reasons for our conversation, and she and I have many wonderful conversations along the Potomac River and elsewhere, is the topic of my new book, Soulmates, Resurrecting Eve, which was published by Transaction recently. I would like to start by first describing why it is that we have a conversation about soulmates, and once again Eve, one of the oldest and best known stories in the history of mankind. I truly believe that it is the most important story, the most important narrative of our culture. The Abrahamic religions, the sister religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam share a great deal, but nothing illustrates quite so clearly what we share than the story of creation of mankind, which the Bible describes in books 1 and 2. This most eloquent statement of man's creation in book 1 of Genesis describes how God created mankind, Adam. In his own image, male and female, he created them. He created soulmates to one another, and that image is the relationship of love and respect between human beings. They alone are souls. They alone understand the difference between right and wrong. They know what good is. They learned it the hard way. I understood, as many other scholars have, the story of, the infamous story of the fall. The Jewish tradition, it is not called a fall, and even Islam does not call it a fall, but a fall it was, in that, indeed, one could say that mankind grew up and understood what choice and responsibility is, what it means to be wrong. One cannot understand freedom without understanding the difference between good and evil. Both male and female understood that what seemed good to them had very bad consequences. And it seems natural as a next step to infer what else? The golden rule? You cannot presume to treat another as a means rather than as an end. Everyone has to choose for himself or herself, and everyone has to live with the consequences. Both Eve and Adam chose to eat the forbidden apple. They had been told that there may be bad consequences. They thought otherwise. It looked good to them. Nice red apple, right? Or whatever it was, figs. It was a good fruit, right?
That's why it was forbidden.
That's why it was, right, exactly. But they lived with the consequences. And then there was a misogynist term, for reasons I'm not going to speculate. But there was in all three religions. Unfortunately, it's Islam that has paid the greatest price for the misogynist term. What I show in my book, and what I would like Zainab to elaborate on from her own personal experience is the fact that in the Quran itself, the story of creation is represented as a instance, the quintessential instance of God creating helpmates, or as Zainab prefers to translate the Arabic, partners, from one another's flesh, to love and respect one another. The Quranic message is unequivocal. Now, if I may turn to Zainab, what went wrong? In the words of Bernard Lewis.
This is the question. This is the question. Indeed, Juliana, first, thank you very much for inviting me to have this wonderful conversation, and congratulations on an excellent book. And it is certainly the question that we, throughout history, it's been people trying to address it. Why, in the Quran, God says, we created you, male and female. You are equal. You have same responsibilities and same duties. Why things have changed? Why we have to deal with this issue in an era now where things are much easier than before, an era that women represent more than half of the society in terms of numbers. Why this half of the society has been oppressed and not have a voice that been projected. Certainly throughout history, the text, the religious text is there, address this situation in a very clear voice.
Yes.
But the interpretation of that. We cannot only look at the religious texts as, the only source that it's, people are following.
Right.
Because there are people who are interpreting the religious leaders or cleric work on these issues. On the other hand, also, there is the cultural aspect of it. Women always considered the second-class citizen, even though as much as they have been attached to their religion and to the that believing to the core, and from that belief it become, the culture was embedded in it.
Right.
So they took these different aspects from the culture to apply it to the religion, and for women to become the second class under their interpretation.
Tell us a little bit about your own experiences growing up in Iraq.
Mm-hmm. Well, I lived as, I come from a religious family. Mm-hmm. My grandfather is clergy, and he has huge followers in southern Iraq. Being a granddaughter of an imam was a big deal. I have to act in a certain way, to dress up in a certain way. I was the example for all other girls and to follow. And certainly put a huge responsibility on my shoulder at that early age. But at the same time, I felt there was something about me that I wanted to be out there, and I didn't want to be. The society always separated between men on one side and women on the other side. And women have not, did not go to public, they have not been mentioned. So at an early age, I was always to go and follow my grandfather and go with him to different places. Until a certain age, until I was 11 or 12, these things have changed. And I've been told by my grandfathers, I'm not going to be able to take you anymore. You have to go to the women's side, and you are not being exposed to public anymore. That certainly put me in a. This is not what I'm used to. This is not what I have grown up with, and put me in an awkward position because I've seen the other side, there's nothing wrong with me being out there. I'm respecting myself. I have a good image. I am all of these things. Situation in Iraq politically was not very, a lot of oppression by the government and against people.
This was during the Saddam.
There was Saddam Hussein's era, and
you couldn't be a Muslim.
You couldn't be
in your own.
you could not practice your religion in the way you wish.
Yes.
And even though you are living in a Muslim country. And that's the irony when people say, well, there are many, religious groups being discriminated against in Muslim countries. Well, Muslims also been discriminated by their own dictators and governments. And I took the lead when I decided to participate in 1991 uprising against Saddam Hussein.
Yes,
grenades and all. I was, just my last year in high school, and I had it in terms of oppression and, pressure from the government and discrimination. And I wanted to live free. And I had this idea of, if I'm not going to fight, freedom is not going to come.
Yes.
When the uprising happened, you see all these young guys in the street and fighting. And when I came out, it was very strange. Why you are a woman? This is a fight. And I said, well, this is my fight too.
Yes.
I want to be free. He said, but you are a woman. And I said, so? You need my help. And I did. I did help, and I fought against, the Saddam Hussein soldiers at that time. We gained freedom for a few days. We enjoyed it inside Iraq. This is something that we have done internally without any help. And, and then failed after a few days. Yes. And these days, freedom means a lot. Not freedom in terms of only, freedom from dictatorship, but the freedom for me as a woman.
Yes.
It has a huge meaning. It's that I fought for it. I didn't, get it on a silver plate.
But at the time, you had to run away.
I had to hide after I was injured, and then escaped Iraq after a few months. I was in hiding for 3 months, and then I left Iraq afterwards.
You came to the United States, and now you have a wonderful organization.
Thank you.
Which is living proof that you live what you believe.
That's right.
Can you describe it?
Exactly. And for many years, after I came to the U.S., I went to school and started building a family and having a life, and then 9/11 happened.
Yes.
That was another wake-up call for me.
Yes.
Is that the things that I left behind, I didn't want to deal with it on an emotional level and all of that. But the danger is still there. And freedom is a very precious thing. And people take it here, freedom and democracy take it here for granted in the US and the Western countries. People who lack and lived under a dictatorship, like myself, value it and know the value of it. So after 9/11, I was seeing all of these images of, the trade centers falling, and people are dying and screaming. Brought back a lot of memories from 1991. And at that time, I was teaching at Yale University, and I said,
"Where?
Yale University." Yale. And I said, "Well,
it's a competitor around."
And I said, "Well, I have done my share, and I have to establish something to project the voice of moderation.
Yes.
Working on human rights, civil rights issues.
Yes.
Women's rights, they present more than half of the society, as well as religious freedom issues."
Why do you think that the message of the positive aspects of Islam are not louder in the United States and elsewhere?
I'll tell you. There are several reasons for that. Media certainly focuses on the extremist, not the moderate. That's one. Moderate voices are there, still existing, doing their work, their projects and programs in many different fields. I'll tell you about our organization.
Right.
We do programs in 70 college campuses for a project called
70?
70.
Oh my
called
goodness.
Project Noor. Project Noor is to encourage young students in college campuses to be involved.
Yes.
Involved in changing the world for a positive,
Project Noor.
Project Noor, N-U-R. And Project Noor, we have thousands of students involved in that program.
Yes.
And they work on human rights, civil rights issues. They work on very critical issues, in fact. The issues of that we see of radicalization, of extremism, of lacking of human rights. They run campaigns. They run projects in their communities that have huge benefits to build the personality of these young students on college campuses, as well as to introduce them to international issues, to introduce them to violations of human rights and civil rights around the world, and how they deal with it as individuals living in this country, enjoying the freedom and democracy.
Right. And you also work abroad?
I work abroad in many different countries. I have offices in Iraq, Egypt, Tunisia, and we work on women empowerment for many years. Recently, we published a modern narrative for Muslim women in the Muslim world, and included 5 countries: Morocco, Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia, to focus on several spheres. And these spheres start from education to economy to social, religion, and politics. And these issues has been widely discussed in each country.
Yes.
So this report is basically for policymakers who wants to push for women's rights in the Muslim world, and it had a huge impact. Internationally in these countries that the study has been done, as well as here, and how people see it and address it.
What struck me in writing this book and following what you were just saying is that the pragmatic utilitarian argument for resurrecting Eve, shall we say, in the Islamic world is so powerful. I mean, it's so clear that by disenfranchising and repressing 50% plus, in many cases considerably plus, of the population, you're doing your own society harm. But in addition, so that should be, from a self-interested point of view, clear. That should be the first step toward understanding why respecting other human beings is a good thing. Of course. But in addition, it seemed to me also that, so yeah, when sometimes we talk about, oh, why don't people understand, that all men and women are created equal and have Western values? The important thing is to appreciate that these are not just Western in the sense of American and European and so forth values. They are central to the entire Abrahamic monotheistic creed. And so you would think that it would resonate. One thing that I found very refreshing is that within the Muslim community, scholars, both men and women, are refinding the true message of the Quran. I wonder if you might talk a little bit about that, well, you already have, because in fact the study that you mentioned is an example, is a product, and I believe all of your writers were women.
Yeah. That's right.
But it's a male, female. It's not just.
It's not a big.
It's not Westies and male, female. It's not about groups.
It's about the facts that what's going on in the society, how the society, in terms of different part of the society dealing with it, the religious aspect, the cultural aspect, the tribal aspect, the government, and how you look at the bigger picture. It's not one group and not the other.
Exactly.
It's not one community but not the other. Women from all these spectrum of backgrounds and religious affiliation, they share one thing. And that one thing is, the oppression that they are getting, and the lack of them practicing their rights.
Yeah.
And they share that throughout throughout the region. Even though there are women who are in a leadership position, women who are highly educated, but they do not have a similar chance as men have in the society. They are always putting them on the side, marginalized. I mean, look at, I'll give you a recent example. What happened in the Arab Spring?
Yes.
Women were in the front lines. They were, going in demonstrations, staying in these squares wherever the revolution is happening, aiding the revolutionaries with, medical assistance and support and technology and tweeting and, sending messages through Facebook and so on and so forth. Then, when this revolution succeeds, where are we?
Yes. Right.
Last year, in March 8th, 2011, after the huge success of the Tunisian and the Egyptian revolution happened, women went in rallies in the street, in the demonstration. What did they tell them? The same guys, they were side to side by them during the revolution. Go home, it's not your time.
They still have a long way to go.
Exactly. So the revolution did not really end in there. In fact, it's a continuous.
Yes.
Because their rights have not been guaranteed. And they are not getting the similar right as men, or similar chances as men. Even when they ran under certain political parties, they didn't have the quota to support them. First of all, they did not have appointments for them. At the same time, they are not willing to accept having a big number of women participating in the parliament or in government offices. So we're taking the old question back to modern history and what's happening in the past few months or last year. And it's been reapplied again and again.
And to bring it to a spiritual level, although, of course, the urgency of the political dimensions are here and now quite clearly. But from a spiritual point of view, when you treat someone else without respect, it is you who are sinning, who are hurting the concept of being human, who are not being true to what you have been brought on earth for. And it's a matter of self-respect as much as respect for another. It would seem to me that this kind of message would resonate more. And one of the ways to get there is perhaps to stop thinking of people in terms of groups, whether male or ethnic groups or female or whatever. Every individual has the right to shape his own or her own life as he or she sees fit, as long as you don't hurt someone else. The famous golden rule, treat another as you would want to be treated, as do not treat another as you would not want to be treated.
That's right.
From a negative perspective. You were just mentioning to me, if we could ask a last question, perhaps, that you did an interview yesterday on religious freedom, and you underscored the fact that your organization is actually defending the religious freedoms of all
people of all
faiths.
It is very important for a person who lived not only on a personal level, I think on a spiritual level as well.
Exactly.
We believe as Muslims we have our own beliefs, and people have their own beliefs, and we have to respect it. Now, if these things have not been widely spread in the modern history under the battle for power.
Right.
You know, but spiritually, I believe in it. You know, as a Muslim, might be, you know, there are many other Muslims do not believe in what I believe in, but this is not the point. The point is doing what you feel is right. People who have been discriminated against because of their religious affiliation, or rituals. Yeah, I mean, we work with the American Islamic Congress on gaining the rights of religious minorities in the Muslim world. Baha'is, Copts, Christians, Ismailis, and you know, you name it, Zoroastrians. These people, they have the right to you know, worship God the way they see it is close to them, or the way they believe in it. Why all of these different governments and people putting the oppression on these individuals or these communities not being able to practice their religion the way they wish? I lived in a Muslim country.
Yes.
In Iraq. I am a Muslim, but I was not able to practice my religion the way I wish. I was discriminated against, I was persecuted, and so on and so forth. And then, at the end, you know, you look at other religious minorities, you see them in the same boat. Why these people are not being able to practice the right that is being given to them by religion, by God, since the day of creation.
Yes.
And also under the human rights treaties and pillars, you know. Why we are, as human beings, putting all of this pressure on people who are different than us and not allowing them to be who they are.
Well, I think I know who I'm going to nominate for the Nobel Prize. Nobel Prize for Peace.
Thank you very much. And this is really an amazing opportunity to be able to address these issues in this book. And I think people should take a look at it, read it, study it, and you know, it's a great food for.
Thank you. Oh, my son is reading it.
Awesome. That's great.
Yes. Well, thank you, Zainab. It's a wonderful pleasure and privilege to host you at the
It's an honor to be with you, Juliana, and all the best.
Okay. Thank you.